Hi, I'm Scott Snyder.
Hey, my name's Greg Hurwitz.
Hi, this is Neil Adams.
Hey, this is Jeff Johns.
Hi, this is Greg CAPULLO. I'm here at New York City Comic Con 2012.
This is Batman 101.
Tune in.
Batman to me has always been the Dark Knight, the darkest, gloomiest, most gothic of all of DC's characters.
I mean, growing up, you just loved Batman, just mainly probably because of his look.
Batman is Sherlock Holmes who could compete in the Olympics and probably win most of the events.
And he's someone who's unafraid to go up against the supernatural, to peek into the dark corners, to find everything. And the flip side and the fuel for that for me is it goes back to a dark alley when he was once a scared kid.
And the family goes out to see a movie one night and they're confronted by a criminal outside after the film, and Bruce's parents are shot dead. And Bruce is obviously devastated by this, and years later, Bruce becomes Batman, and he spent all these years training and making himself the perfect weapon to enact justice.
Most of us, don't like when bad things happen to good people, happen to us or whatever, and we all kind of like would love to go and mete out justice because, God bless law enforcement and everything like that. They don't always get it done, right? And Batman gets it done.
And it's not revenge. There's a very important distinction, is that Batman's not about revenge because he's not out there to catch the killer of his parents. He's out there to prevent that from happening to anybody else.
He's one of the few superheroes who's really not afraid to walk that knife edge between sanity and insanity.
But that really interesting mix of heroism and sort of completely twisted self-destructive impulse is what's endlessly fascinating to me, because it also makes him heroic that he's flawed in that way.
I think Batman has been such a perennial favorite and so popular through the years because in some ways he represents the best possible version of what a human can be. If it's discipline, if there's hard work, if there's total physical dedication and determination, he represents almost the peak that you can get to if you put everything aside, but he's not magical.
So he is the antithesis of Superman. He is the other end of the spectrum. He is a superhero without superpowers.
Batman's parents could be shot today or 100 years ago, and the character still works because all of us can relate to that pain.
But there's also the fantasy of these amazing gadgets and the car and the cave. There's something just wonderfully awe-inspiring as a kid to seeing the coolest car in the world, missiles and all the different sort of toys and gadgets that he has. But at the end of the day, I really think what keeps him relevant, or what makes him the most popular hero in the world, if he is that humanity, is that sense of any of us could be Batman, or a version of Batman in that way, with the sort of determination and force of will that Bruce has.
Batman's greatest flaw is his emotional complexity. He puts walls up around himself.
And in some ways I think that the manor is almost a metaphor for him. Like there's floors that the guests can go to, there's rooms that people can visit, but there's a whole hidden area beneath that no one's allowed to touch.
You can't really name a long-term romantic interest with Batman beyond really Catwoman.
And we're dealing with that in Joker in a lot of ways, the way he emotionally closes people off to protect them from his mission. And I think sometimes he's right to do that and sometimes he's wrong, but it's always his reaction.
But I think it's a desire to not be human. He didn't want to be human, he didn't want to feel pain, he didn't want to feel loss and loneliness, and so he built up this armor, and armor's wonderful in that it protects you, it insulates you, but it also reduces your flexibility.
That to me is one of the things that's most also, again, heroic and interestingly complicated about him. So.
Now, my favorite Batman villain, I have to say, is the Riddler.
Oh, the Joker, like hands down. It's easy.
I'm supposed to at this point say Joker, and it probably is the Joker.
Well, my favorite Batman villain is Ra's al Ghul. It seemed as though Batman didn't have a Moriarty. So Denny and I and Julie created a Moriarty, turned out to be Ra's al Ghul.
My first project for DC, I wrote the Penguin, and the miniseries Pain and Prejudice. And I think why I started with the Penguin, and why the Penguin always has a special place in my heart, is because he's the only one out of the Rogues Gallery who is sane.
His whole rogue gallery is just littered with awesome villains.
I love Joker. Obviously, you love Two-Face, Bane, Mr. Freeze. All those other characters are great. But there's something about the Riddler that he challenges Batman's mind. You don't really, when you say Riddler, you don't think of these physical fights between Batman and the Riddler. You think of these puzzles that Batman's got to solve. And I really love that as a villain. It's very unique. If I was going to recommend one Batman story to anybody, the Batman The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns, man. Frank Miller really, he's wowed me.
Probably pick up year one before I pick that up because it's a wonderful introduction to Batman's origin.
I think those two stories really, they start at the beginning and the end of Batman, so they're perfect stories to give to anybody who's interested in Batman.
The Killing Joke is probably my third favorite.
For me, it's always going to be The Killing Joke.
There will never be a better mass vigilante, I think, in fiction, because Batman is the one. And I don't think any other character in fiction has had more stories told about them than Batman. So Batman to me is the epitome of justice and human perfection and what you can strive to do if you put your mind and soul into it. How's that?
That's awesome.
I mean, I'd have killed the Joker long ago. So, I mean, I think Batman should just let loose, he'll feel great, and be done with it, and nobody else will get hurt by the Joker.